We're so on time. Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Leanne Wood, and I'm part of the public relations and social media team for the show. And I'm also the MC of the Smart Stage powered by CE Pro. We just had a fabulous hour of Tech Bites, the program that brings the latest and greatest products to the stage in quick 3-minute presentations. Savant was one of those brands selected for Tech Bites, and we want to learn more. So now we get to learn more than 3 minutes about this great company. Very well timed. Please welcome Julie Jacobson, founding editor of CE Pro, and JC Murphy, executive VP of Savant and Raceport Point Energy, to the stage as they discuss how Savant technologies contribute to healthy living and wellness.
Hello, thank you for joining us today. Hello, JC, good to see you.
Hi, Julie, great to be here.
I just did an hour-and-a-half session this morning on wellness-related technology, a session and then some a networking event, and obviously we talked about some of your solutions.
Fantastic, yeah, and we've been following all the great work that you've been doing, getting everybody smart on this awesome new category of wellness. And it's truly a new category, I think, for the industry across a bunch of different technology disciplines. And when you think about the different things in the home that actually can affect how you feel, it really starts to broaden the category. And
I love the title of this session because I want to feel happy. Let's start. So your foray into this wellness category started with lighting, and it seems to me, I kind of woke up one morning and all of a sudden Savant had all this lighting. You have a lot of different options, one user interface that can communicate effectively with all sorts of different lighting. How did that come to be?
well, thank you for saying that. It's been a long time coming for us. The vision really started with a great partnership that ended up being an acquisition of a historic lighting company called Light Touch. And we really, sitting back at Savant, we saw a need to, we saw what was happening in the industry in terms of audio and video control and what was happening with remotes and things like that. And the user experience in automation in general was not great. And we came across, talking to our customers, the way to give the end users the way to personalize that experience for their traditional home automation systems. But what we really wanted to do is really drive that personalization into the lighting experience. And it started with a concept to say, let's take a picture of the light and let's let folks just touch on that picture to actuate lighting control. And folks that have been around here for a long time, or if you're new to the industry, lighting control across all residential and commercial environments is not really well deployed. It's almost kind of just starting, even though companies have been at it for so long. And our thought around that was, it's really not personal. You know, it was really hard to make a lighting control system and that element of lighting control in the home a personal experience without hundreds of thousands of dollars and, you know, like hundreds of man hours of work to get it there. So we really started about 5 years ago bringing in a company to give us the core fabric of what we needed to understand in terms of lighting control. And then we went hard to work on an application, the user interface, to really bring that lighting control image to light. And it actually started with a photo. So everybody that's got a phone, if you look at your phone right now, there's something very personal about that phone. You know, you've made that phone that you're going to use very personal. You've got a picture of your family, of a great scene you like, of a dog. So we wanted to take that whole idea of personalization and bring that into the user interface itself, and then continue the effort of personalize that experience, really extending it into a lighting to make more people comfortable with that experience. So that's where it started.
Well, that was quite a revelation.
That was a long
well,
answer. Sorry, I'll keep those short.
And then when you brought that personalization to the remote, I have always thought that our industry's dirtiest little secret was that once you spend all this money to have a system installed, every little change requires a call to the integrator. And I thought that was a horrible experience. And you guys did a really nice first job of letting the user themselves configure stuff and change stuff. And the dealer doesn't want those calls anyway to program in a new radio station. But it's interesting that what really drove you to create such a large and robust lighting ecosystem was the fact that we were still waiting on a good way to personalize the experience. And once you develop that, then there was every reason to go ahead and build up underneath that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of schools of thought around that. If you make anything in your environment, you make anything in your lifestyle very personal, you use it, right? And so usability of interface, an app, or something that you do on a regular basis, once it becomes personal to you, it's ingrained in what you do every day, and it makes that experience so much better. The other thing too is that this is a big lesson for a technology company like Savant or RacePoint. It's that your customers really will tell you the problems. You just have to listen. The whole idea of personalization from us came to talking to the customer base about how hard it was for them to satisfy the customer on an ongoing basis. They may deploy this awesome automation and control system that's controlling everything you could imagine in the home, and they thought they designed it right, and they had talked to the end user about it, and the week after they walk off the job, the end user was like, well, it's kind of there, but I need this, this, and this. For the integrator base, for the professionals that are out there in the CEDIA industry, that is a money-losing proposition. They would have to go back to jobs, the client wasn't happy, so they really said, if you guys could solve that problem, we would make more money, our customers would be happier, and life would be good.
Well, and that gets us sort of in the wellness department here. You have the hardware and the software and the partners to put together a really solid, accurate, precise color tuning ecosystem with your partner at USAI. And so you have all the tools there, but what has always been missing in the residential space is no one had the algorithms or the software to implement true circadian lighting. Based on the intensity and the color temperature, based on where the sun was and all the patterns. Even if it was available, no one really had the tools to implement it effectively. And you are one of the first really that came out with a solution for that. So explain how you developed an interface that would force a lighting sort of pattern on the residents, but not make them stick with it.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So if you step back, and it's a transition that all of us has been dealing with in our own homes and buildings. As soon as LED came out, LED technology came out, all of a sudden the game changed for a bunch of different reasons. And one of them was obviously energy consumption, dramatically dropped off with LED technology. But LED technology also introduced a bunch of nuances in terms of the type of light that we would get out of those early LEDs. So we started to recognize that the movement to LED light, even before people really talked about tunable white light or RGBW light, there was a technology shift that was going on that everybody needed to pay attention to. And really that was very much behind our need to go out and get really smart on LED light technology, and the fixture companies that were out there in the industry really pioneering new ways to deliver drivers and LED technology into these lighting fixtures. And Savant, we're sitting back as a control system company that's doing lighting control, but with no real knowledge of the challenge that the lighting fixture companies had in delivering all this new LED technology. And the good and the bad news is everyone does it different. So we really started to go to work on trying to drill into how do we make a consistent, tunable lighting experience, and the only way to do that is to really integrate very closely with the actual fixtures and the lighting engine and the drivers that are in those fixtures. So that's where it started.
Yeah, I had the hardest time understanding that when LEDs come out. What, there's two parts to it? I don't really get it. But then You created the software to actually run circadian routines following the light intensity and the color temperature of the natural daylight. And can you explain some of the customization behind that? And then you also made a tool to help dealers demonstrate what that does, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's first start with we partnered with a company called USAI. And USAI is a historic lighting fixture company that has been doing this since the 30s in terms of fixtures and lighting fixture manufacturing. And what is amazing about what they've been able to do is through their history of deploying light into commercial buildings and into residences, they've been able to develop a tremendous database in terms of what degree Kelvin and what temperature of Kelvin has impact on architecture and the furnishing in the homes and the pictures in the home. And what that extended into was how they could actually tune that light to adjust how we actually feel. And there's tremendous science behind this now, Julie, that we've gotten smart on in the last couple of years. You've dove into, but the basic premise is that at some point in time, we all knew that we felt better based on the certain type of sunlight we got. And it wasn't until about 10 years ago that they actually discovered that there was an actual sensor in your eye, not your rod or your cone, but there was an actual sensor in the eye that was triggering the amount of melatonin that was released in your body by the type of sunlight you got. Now, think about that for a second, and you use this term. It's primal, right? The day-night wake cycle, how we sleep, when we want to go to bed, all of that is genetic, and it goes back forever, right? And it's how our bodies are supposed to operate because we're used to being outside. This whole phenomenon about the human being inside for a bunch of hours, that's really not how we're used to living. But that's why we feel better with this certain temperature and color of lights. So our job was just to now replicate that awesome outdoor tunable white color experience that you get if you're outside all day and bring that into the home.
And make it available automatically, yet make it easy for users to override if they want to do their gym at 4 o'clock. They can set the sunrise for 4 o'clock, etc.
Absolutely, and this goes back to the whole personalization piece of it. So now you can basically set your home into a circadian rhythm mode, tuning your tunable white lights, to a certain circadian rhythm pattern. And then you can modify that based on how you live in the home or who's living in that home. And you can actually, because behind this all is a control system, you actually can dial that into a specific room. So what does that mean, JC? Right? What does that mean? So I have my whole home launched at whatever time that I've set up to go into circadian rhythm mode. So the inside of the home is going to mirror exactly what's happening outside in terms of color, temperature. And that's done with a tunable white light. And then basically my home's in circadian room mode, but I go in the kitchen and I want brighter light. Hit the button on the keypad, hit the button on the remote, hit the button on the UI or voice activate to go into normal mode. And that room just goes in and you turn the lights on like you normally would. And then as soon as you want to exit that automatically goes back into circadian rhythm mode. And this is the personalization that we're talking about to make it useful for everybody and to make it simple for the end user to actually take control of that once we've set up this initially.
Yeah. I think it's important because your body really needs to start winding down at a certain time each night, a few hours before you go to sleep. And if you're not on auto mode, you're never going to dim your lights down properly to help you get into that mood. And I mean, I need someone to force me. I unscrew one of my bulbs at 4 o'clock in the evening. But I think it's helpful that you can enforce the proper circadian cycles if that's the preference of the homeowner.
Yeah, no, and I read this great book by Bill Bryson, and he talks about a short history of nearly everything, and he talks about how an innovation happens, and it usually happens in multiple areas, and multiple different people are thinking about great things all the time. We knew something was happening when my iOS device, all of a sudden I downloaded an iOS load and it went into night shift mode. And I don't know if anybody's experienced that, but all of a sudden, if you had an iPhone, I don't know, it was a couple years ago, you had this night shift mode. I'm like, what's that? Oh man, they figured out that to calm you down at a certain time, take the blue light out of the screen. So if you're in bed or you're reading and you're on your iPhone, it's a calming, no blue light.
Wasn't that the time, wasn't it like 9 in the evening and all of a sudden everyone went...
Right. So the only point there is that this is a phenomenon that I think, let's make a bold statement. I think that at one point you always had to buy a car, and I'm going to date myself, that, you had a roll-up window like this, and then all of a sudden go try to find a car that doesn't have an automatic window. I think where lighting is going in the home is that tunable white and colored lighting in the home. We won't buy a home that doesn't offer that.
Yeah, it's really killing us. That we're off our sleep patterns, and a lot of it does have to do with light. I want you to show the demo of your...
Oh, great. Yeah, so there's a short video. You're going to see this in action. Let me just give you 2 words on it. It's basically, this is native in the Savant UI with our next release of software. So it's available for everybody. It's going to have, a certain amount of effect based on the type of the quality of the light that you have. But the key here that we're trying to show, it's an offer for everybody. Everybody can experience this in terms of lighting control and the circadian rhythm mode. So this is 24 hours and a minute and 45 seconds. Okay, and you're going to see this displayed on the app. So here we go. So the individuals selected the rooms they wanted to do it. They picked the time that the circadian rhythm sequence is going to start at this point. They didn't quite like the color temperature it started at, so they adjusted that color temperature for them. And they've done the same thing on the opposite of the circadian rhythm spectrum for evening. They've actually set a timer through the UI of when they want this to trigger. And they can do that via regular time, or they can do that via celestial clock. And here we go. So that was 24 hours and less than a minute, but basically in that mode, the whole home goes through that that specific circadian rhythm pattern based on how the user set basically the start time for when they want it to happen and the end time based on what their work schedule or the day's like.
All right, so all of your lighting controls, and they don't have a timer here, so I have no idea what time it is. All of your lighting controls have energy implications as well. And that's another area that you guys have focused on pretty heavily lately.
Yeah, this is a super passionate category for us. Ironically, now with the move to LED, the lighting part of your home, in a home or a building, is consuming less and less electricity. Awesome. So, what we've done is we've really introduced a next generation of lighting control solution that's really focused on energy management and monitoring. And this solution basically is specified in at the home, and it's designed right in alongside of your breaker panel. So this is the really first time technology's been introduced at that level where you get control of the amount of energy the home's consuming at a breaker panel level. Has anybody ever heard of the term phantom power in the group? So phantom power, and I've only learned this in the last 3 years, phantom power is all the devices that are plugged into the home that are turned on, or not turned on, but consuming power, just drawing power from the grid. And on average, 23% of all residential power consumption, all residential power in the US, is getting wasted with this phantom power consumption. So this particular platform, day one does one thing. It goes in right along with your circuit breaker panel. It monitors the amount of energy that the entire home is consuming. So my funny analogy is that, well, so what that it's monitoring energy, right? It's like that commercial where, there's the security monitoring company and there's the bank monitor. So the robber breaks in and the bank monitor is sitting there and he's going, hey, why aren't you doing something about this bank robbery? And he's like, oh, wait, I'm a security monitor. I'm not the bank guard. So this is different. This monitors the amount of energy, gives the user a great view of the energy consumption. And I'm going to come back to why that's important. But the thing that it lets you do is it actually lets you have an impact. It actually lets you control the amount of energy your home is consuming during certain parts of the day. Why is that important? That's important for demand response programs in your local area. That's important for being able to peak shift and peak shave power if you're charging an electric vehicle. And this entire system is the foundation that gets tied into a battery backup system or a renewable energy system that includes battery backup and solar, which is the foundation of the RacePoint company that you see here up on the screen as well. Now, how do we make this practical? We've got to tie it back into a user interface that the end user can understand and control. And the way we're doing that is we're outlining certain modes of the home that our integrator community puts the home in for the homeowner itself. So there's the off-grid mode, there's the on-grid mode, there's the energy saver mode, and these simple modes allow the homeowner to understand what's going on with their system. But at the core, the whole idea here is to be able to build a resilient home that's net zero compliance. And this is a foundational product that we're bringing to the industry for the first time to let folks do that with.
So just there have been smart breaker boxes before, smart companion modules before, but you have a selection that actually contains the dimmer modules within.
Yeah, and that's I think what's really unique here is there's two different types of these modules. Some of the modules do your standard types of dimming. Common industry terms are adaptive phase and forward phase dimming. So you use these modules for that. But then we also have relay modules, and those relay modules, think relay turning things on and off. So they're actually turning plug level load appliances on and off on a given schedule or how the user selected that. And what's super exciting is that you can basically have a tremendous impact on the amount of energy the home's consuming if you automate that system. If you had to go around, it was like when your father would tell you to shut the refrigerator door. If you had to run around the house and be turning things off all the time, doesn't make a lot of sense. The key is that it's turning it off at the circuit breaker level. So I'm actually cutting power to that plug level load, in addition to doing my dimming control with my adaptive and forward phase dimming module.
So you can create a whole dimming system without needing a keypad necessarily.
100%.
Okay, great. You had an announcement today regarding a new energy solution with Sonnen.
Yeah, so RacePoint Energy, up here on the screen, basically is an engineering and furnishing company. And basically their claim to fame is basically these awesome breaker companion modules that they sell and the Savant company is taking into the custom integration channel. And part of the design of a microgrid is three basic components. It's some renewable energy source like solar, right? It's battery backup, and it's this dynamic load management capability to allow you to peak shift and peak shave based on the amount of demand and amount of supply you have available for your renewable energy source. And yesterday we announced a strategic partnership with Sonnen to incorporate their EcoLinks battery offering as part of the battery solution we offer. And then we've also got a larger system that we have as well, where we're OEMing other batteries for that larger system.
Excellent. What do we have for time? 24. So okay. We got 6 minutes. I would like to talk to, because Savant is one of the companies that is really sharing my enthusiasm for wellness technology and biophilic design. And you started with this really excellent lighting ecosystem for circadian lighting, and then we've been talking about building that out to include more elements of nature, biophilia, the love of nature, our connection to nature. And so, I've been sending you guys ventilation system companies, smart beds.
Smart beds, yep.
Sound generators for wellness, and you guys have kind of eagerly, I know you worked with Leon speakers on the show floor. They had their little biophilia airstream there. And so we've talked about this, so I know, so do you have kind of a vision of how Savant might pull all of that together?
Yeah, it's really exciting. As I mentioned earlier, really, if you think about everything that kind of affects your well-being inside the home, and now the ability to tie that into an automation and control system really brings it to life. And we've talked about the idea of personalization. There's maybe some of you have attended this Consumer Electronics Show. There's always all these gadgets that come out of the market that are point solutions to do certain things. And folks generally get tired of them because it doesn't really work with anything else that's going on that they need to work with. But now, with the whole push around wellness and all these different IoT devices that are going to come into the home that are going to affect your well-being, the fact that we can easily bring them into the control system environment really makes that super helpful and super efficient for the end user.
Yeah, you can imagine one of these smart beds. Brightbed was the one I've been talking to, that you can control the temperature on each side of the bed. So when you set your wake-up time, that coordinates with the lighting and the intensity, the virtual sunrise, that you also create. There's also circadian temperature cycles where it should be warmer when you're waking up and cooler when you go to bed. You think of living outdoors all the time, it starts to warm when the sun is rising. So you could coordinate both of those stimuli through your system.
Yeah, and what seems super fascinating is all the kind of technology components are there. When you think about why you feel the way you do, it's usually related to temperature, it's related to audio, it's related to lighting, and it's related to air quality.
Visuals, the motion of the air, so much.
And visual. All those things are in our ecosystem out there, and Julie's been very passionate about researching and getting other companies engaged in this space. But all those kind of core technologies are out there. We're just kind of pulling them in some usable fashion through a UI that makes it understandable to the end user, that they can set. The great example, the end user setting a certain scene that is good night or party or whatever, and their entire environment now responds to that, not only including lighting, but tying in these other wellness products.
Vent the air after that party. I think we'll wrap it up. Did you have any final words you want to say? Anything about your new products or your initiatives here?
No, just if you get a chance, come over. This is all on demonstration over in the booth. Come see us, and we'll show you a good time. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks for joining us today.